I'm going to actually introduce the two speakers. They are marketing rock stars. Koley Corte is with Reed Exhibitions, and Erin Lee is with Bio. And it's been my pleasure for the last, I don't know, 3 months or so at least, to be involved in telecoms and meetings where I've really learned a lot about digital, and it's really, opened my mind to a whole bunch of new ideas. So without further ado, please come up and give us your take on digital. Thank you.
All right, so hopefully you guys all came back, you have lots of energy, you're ready to pay attention to us, and you're ready to engage. So we're gonna start out and just tell you a little bit about us. We're gonna tell you a little bit about what you guys believe about digital. And then we're gonna turn the corner and tell you what we believe and how we're putting that in action in our roles today. So, and we're gonna give you a little lessons about what we think you should be doing and some takeaways. So you'll walk away with some stuff that you can start applying with your teams back in the office when you get back. So who are we? So I'll start, and why do we have permission to talk to you about these things? I know Sam said that we know what we're doing, but let's prove that to you. So I've been at Reed for 2 years. Today's actually my 2-year anniversary. So
congratulations.
When I say 2 years, I mean 2 years. My background's a little bit different than you might expect. So I'm not from the trade show industry. I'm also not really a digital person. Like, my role wasn't digital before I was here. My role was around driving strategic change. All my roles throughout my career have been about disruptors and how you can embrace those disruptors and change industry and change your organization and continue profitable growth. So digital, for all of us, is an agent of change in a face-to-face marketing live events business. So we're looking at how do we embrace digital to extend our relationships, deepen our relationships, acquire customers, and diversify our revenue. Before this, those of you who heard me speak yesterday heard me say this, but I specialize only in companies that have acronyms. So my previous roles were at TIAA, at AIG, and at the Y&R WPP companies. And then just a little bit about me. I'm the mother of 2 boys. I have an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old who love baseball. This will be relevant later. I'm not just telling you this because it's interesting to know that my kids love baseball. And they're specifically Yankees fans, so Yankees fans out there, and the Yankee haters, I'm sorry. So we have another controversial sports fan over here.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. I'm Erin Lee. As I said, I'm the Managing Director of Marketing and Event Technology for Bio. So Biotechnology Innovation Organization. We recently changed our name about 2 years ago, and so that kind of signifies the evolution as an organization. And I think I'll talk a lot about how that also speaks to what we've been doing with digital marketing. I've been in the trade show industry on the marketing side for a number of years. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces. Some colleagues are in the room and some good friends, so it's so exciting to see you all here. So what have we been doing at Bio in the last few years? We've doubled our marketing staff, and we've definitely evolved the way we're spending money towards digital. So I'm happy to talk to you about that today, give you a couple of case studies. And like Koley said, I'm also a huge sports fan. I'm a proud Gamecock. I know there's a Gamecock in the room. And I'm a DC native, and I'm also, Redskin fans. With both of those, there's highs and lows each year, but this year, it's good to be a Gamecock. So really all that means is I'm highly competitive, and I kind of breathe that with my marketing strategies and with my team every day as we're executing on campaigns.
Great. So this is what we heard from you guys. I know Sam shared earlier some of the ECEF Pulse survey, but he let us save this one for our piece. This is how you guys answered the question, what is digital? And I found it fascinating when I looked at this word cloud, because the bigger words are the words that came out the most, as most of you who know word clouds understand. And a lot of it was around the technology, electronic technology, web, mobile, data, a little less around the capability. You see social, you see fast, but you don't see as much around the channel. So we're going to turn it in a second and talk about what we see and also what the industry sees. But Erin, what jumped out to you here?
I think it's really the words data and instant. Like you're saying, a lot of these words don't feel very personal, but what digital is, it's ingrained in everything that we do every day as a consumer. And we're going to talk to you about how to kind of engage that human element via digital year-round and then also at your shows.
So as I said, I thought it was interesting that what showed up here was less about what we can do. And when we look at industry definitions, you see a lot more of that. You see social, media, digital, content marketing, personalization, right? Ways you take the channel and put it to work for you. And I think that's really important. And McKinsey says digital is less about a way of doing, less about a thing, and more about a way of doing things. And I think that's important for us all to take back and think about it as a way of doing things as we conduct our business both internally and externally. So now we're going to share our views. To me, it's really all about the C words. So communication, connection, commerce, and probably most importantly, but not on the slide, is the customer, right? This is all being done in order to engage our customers and drive a customer outcome.
So while I don't have that fun alliteration, my point of view is understanding, incentivizing, and tracking. And the key word here for me is really understanding who your customer is, what their day-to-day is, and when is an opportune time to capitalize on what they're doing digitally, and how to start that conversation and keep the conversation going.
So now that you understand a little bit more about why digital is important and it's this way of doing things, why does it matter to all of us? I think really one of the really important things as we were doing a little research and preparing for this was when we saw how much decision making is being done without ever talking to a person. So more and more interactions are self-guided, and they're not involving, and these are at high dollar price thresholds. So this isn't specific to our industry, this is across industry. But more and more customers are choosing to do their research and in many cases make their decisions on their own, not waiting for a salesperson outreach. And this is really critical for us. So we'll start to talk about a model where I talk about a continuum from do it myself, which is I'm going to make the decision, I'm going to do the research, I'm going to go online, to do it with me where I want to be assisted, to do it for me, which is more the traditional a salesperson calls me and they take care of the transaction for me.
And this is, just to piggyback on what Koley just said, is another look from some Forrester data comparing 2015 to 2017, and from a business-to-business perspective, really, where do I find my information? You know, we are so used to not talking to anybody, so more than 2/3 of the people are looking for self-service. And at Bio, to me, that really says that the customer kind of is in charge, and you really have to be listening and understanding when they are raising their hand, they're looking for information, and you have to be ready to deliver on that expectation, start the conversation when they are.
And the other thing about digital that I think all of us can agree today is digital is pervasive. Everywhere we look, there's a digital element, right? This is a physical event, we're connecting, but behind us are slides, we're polling, right? And even things that we don't think of as traditionally digital are digitally supported. So I always, when I looked at this sheet, I thought it was fascinating that white papers, right? But you think about how do you distribute a white paper? You're probably distributing it, in often cases using it for lead gen, and it becomes a digital tool. Things even like direct mail and printed pieces. Yesterday, for those of you who were in the panel, heard us talk about video and print production. You know, you can send video in a print piece to someone as an invitation. So the world of what was print has become digital, and the world of digital is also, you know, engaging in all these live and in-person interactions.
And I can add to that. So from a staffing perspective and where my marketing team spends time is really in the strategy and kind of the creative side of all of these tactics. And I can honestly say that white papers, webinars, and content are our #1 lead gen strategies. We no longer buy lists from anybody. We do have strategic partnerships that I'll get into later, as Scott mentioned. But really, this is where we spend a lot of our brain power to do it right and to develop rich content that actually cuts through the clutter. I know we talked about that before, but really cuts through the clutter and, you know, really engages our audience. And we've seen some powerful usage of these digital tactics.
So again, digital being pervasive, it's at every stage of a customer life cycle, every stage of their making decisions, right? Again, do it myself, do it for me, do it with me. Can engage multiple senses. I know we heard that talked about this morning, right? It's all your senses, it's all your tools, and so it is mobile, it is online, but it is also bringing in the face-to-face. And it's up to the customer, and so I think for us, all to keep in mind. It's up to the customer, the channel they want to use. It's not always up to us to push the channel on them. And so being where they want us to be when they're looking for us with the right message is incredibly important. And digital enables that in many ways that we didn't have before. So just again, another visual that shows you that digital is everywhere, and so are these other connections. And people are becoming overwhelmed by all the messages coming at them, and that's, again, why we need to be where they're looking for us, too. And digitals can make our events more immersive, right? I see people in the audience now taking pictures. A little terrifying to me, but you know, you see this crowd here showing that they're engaged, right? And they're engaging, they're creating media, they're creating their own moments using digital during a live event. Bless you. So back to the punchline of why I was talking about baseball and my children. Not only are they cute, but they really do love baseball. But the reason I'm talking about this is baseball was a traditional live event. And it was an event that they had a declining fan base. And they needed to find ways, not dissimilar to our business, to engage people and to convince them that there was value to being at the live event. So they have modernized baseball. They've sped up the game. And they've also integrated more digital elements. So just a little bit about my kids. We go to opening day every year. They're Yankees fans. My husband's a Red Sox fan. It's terrible. And so you see there's a picture of us in Fenway. He's wearing the Red Sox hat. We also visit other parks. So recently we were in Philadelphia. We saw the Phillies play the Mets. Again, but the reason this is important is these are live events where everything we're doing at those events now engages digital as well as the physical. So I went with my kids. When I was growing up, we got a paper ticket, right? You probably called, you ordered your ticket, you got a paper ticket in the mail, and you got a paper scorecard. Well, now when I go with my kids, my ticket's on my phone, right? We scan it to walk in. We order food from our seats on our phone, and they're following along. So they know what's going on. They know if someone's injured. They know why the pitcher came out. They're following along with what's going on the sidelines, and there's more coming. There's sidelines, virtual reality, exclusive events that are happening at the game that you can connect with digitally. And so I think it's a good analogy for how we think about our business, is that they've modernized their game to keep up with the times and to attract an audience, and I think we need to do similarly. So here's just some examples of what we do, right? Your tickets, you get points, they gamified it, you can place your orders. And Erin's going to tell a little bit about what she's doing.
So I should have mentioned that I'm about 2.5 weeks out from our largest show, the Bio International Convention. I'm surprised I'm here as well. That's okay. But I wanted to talk about kind of an engagement, or partnership rather, that we tested out for the first time ever with Yelp. So our objective was, how do we showcase the region of San Diego, where our show is going to be in a couple of weeks, to our international audience. So about 1/3 of our 16,000 attendees come from outside the US. And as you know, when you come to a new city, you want to make sure that you taste all the local cuisine and you get that local feel. So we've done a number of campaigns via Twitter over the years to try to elicit people to give us recommendations, usually from that host community, and it's kind of fallen flat. So we had the idea in the office of a coworker of mine who's a Yelp elite, which means that he is highly engaged, like a power user of Yelp. He's always commenting and giving reviews. So we reached out to the San Diego-based office there, in the San Diego-based Yelp office, excuse me. And we said, hey, we have this wacky idea. We'd love to showcase the local favorites, the craft brew, the tacos, you know, nice restaurants for our business development executives. They loved the idea so much that they developed a 20-page guide for us. They developed an online curated list of the best of San Diego. And then, so our attendees are going to be able to access that list online. And when they arrive, they'll receive the fun booklet in their attendee bag. And then we're going to have ambassadors. Actually, our first welcoming reception is at the Petco Park there, baseball stadium in San Diego. And so it's just an example of how, you know, something you're using every day as a consumer, you can kind of turn that idea on its head and make something unique come to life for your audience and for their overall customer experience.
It's great. I'm jealous. Every time Erin tells me about something she's doing, I'm incredibly impressed, given that, you know, the sort of stereotype of the association versus the trade show organizer, and yet a lot of what she's doing, and you're going to see more later, is so advanced and really audience focused. So the big question, should I have a digital strategy? Now, I know you're thinking I'm standing here as the head of digital, so my answer is probably yes. But actually, my answer is no. And the reason why is because, again, going back to the beginning when we were defining digital, it's a channel and it's a way of engaging, but it's about the customer. So really, we need a customer strategy, and we need to bring digital, as well as all our other tools and tactics, into that strategy and be laser-like focused on the customer. And again, remember, baseball, physical and digital, they're integrated. So you can't have a digital strategy just like you wouldn't have a print strategy. And nothing is purely digital anymore. And nothing is purely a live event. Those all have merged together.
Absolutely.
So what should we do? Again, I said I'd give you some tools that you could take back to the office and put to work. I think the first thing we all need to do is embrace digital, right? It's not going away. We're not going to put our heads in the sand. It's not going to go back to the way we used to be. And what was interesting is Forrester did the survey around, and this is 2016 data, so yes, it's improving, but still almost half of our audiences, half of our events are not embracing digital into their live events in a way to increase engagement. So there's a huge opportunity to combine this in-person event with digital engagement. And so I think that's one of the things that we need to all start thinking about and doing more actively. And this is across the customer journey. We should think about this at every customer touch point. Last night I was sharing a story about the Peloton bike. So I just recently got a Peloton. I'm a little bit of a fan.
You
like
love
a little
spinning
crazy.
too? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
yes.
I should put that in my bio.
Should have known that.
I got the bike, but from the moment you engage with them, through their delivery, through you engaging on the bike, it's all a branded experience. And they're thinking about the customer across all those channels. So I was saying the delivery guys pulled in this black van wearing all black. They were incredibly educated. They walked in, they said to me, should we take our shoes off? And I was like, you absolutely should, but no delivery person asked this. And then they came in, they set up the bike, and they got me on the bike before they left, right? They showed me how to log in, and they got me using it. And I think when we think about every touch point, end to end, and how we deliver those branded experiences, I think that becomes really critical and important. So it's everything from the moment we want to create awareness with our audience, right, for exhibitors, attendees, sponsors, to acquiring them and activating them, to helping them plan for their event, to creating the live experience at the event, and then having the results, retention, and engagement post the event. And digital, and the customer needs to be in the middle, and digital needs to be across all of that journey. And think about the customer first, and let the customer choose the channel and the way they want to engage. I don't know, did you have anything to add here, Erin?
No, just that they're targeting me now because I attend spin classes in the
I thought because you
traditional
were standing
sense.
near me, they know
What?
that too.
Yeah, actually, they already know that, so I'm just being retargeted by them. Yeah.
So what should you do next? So you've embraced digital, you understand that we need to think about it across every customer touch point. So the next thing is really about evolving our organizations. And we've been on a journey at Reed, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about. And I'm going to focus on the organizational skills, so the skill set, mindset, and structure that we need in the organization to enable digital to be really integrated into our thinking and approach to customer acquisition and engagement. And then Erin's going to talk to you about how we build the capabilities to deliver and some of the great tools and approaches that she's used. So from an organizational standpoint, what we've done recently at Reed, and this is really recent, like within the past 6 months, is we have combined the marketing and digital organizations. Again, to eliminate any separation and to make sure everyone is aware that digital is everyone's job, just like the customer is part of everyone's job. So we're looking to infuse digital across the organization. And we're doing that through a combination of hiring for talent from outside who brings a data-driven mindset, a digital focus, so people like me, and also how we're lifting up the organization and creating the skills within the organization to bring people along. All of our new hiring, we don't hire anyone without a certain core skill set around digital, critical thinking, data, project management and planning, right? Just much more sort of clinical look at how we are building events and putting a lot of science in it. But we're also looking to bring the existing people who have incredible knowledge base along on that journey and making it clear that it's everyone's job.
I can absolutely agree with that. 3 years ago, we were really focused on, website development from the traditional marketer's sense, and we've done some new hiring over at Bio in the digital space, and they truly have a very unique data framework of way of thinking, both creative and sort of as a scientist as well.
So I said we're on a journey, and when I started and I took over what would be traditionally called the digital team, that team was really an order taker. So they sat at the back end of decisions being made. The event team would talk to the marketing director. The marketing director would go tell the digital person to do something. And the digital person would say, well, this doesn't really make sense, but all they could do was, again, we have 55 events in the US, all they could do was just execute what people were telling them. And so the first diagnosis was, wow, we have to change that equation, right? These are people who understand how to engage the customer, they understand the channel. How do we get them earlier in the conversation? And so we've now moved to being more of a valued business partner with a seat at the table. Again, by combining the organizations, we've made that easier to have happen. And so that they're increasingly understanding what we're trying to achieve from a business outcome, what we want to achieve with our customers, and then they can align the digital solutions as part of that overall approach. In the long term, the goal is to really be a value creator. And we may never get to the end of this journey, but we are continuing down the path and the progression over time. So today, our organization is combined. We have an internal agency that includes traditional marketing as well as digital capabilities, including traditional design and web design under one roof. We've put analytics and insights together so that we're looking at the customer, not the channel, and we're really understanding what we need to do differently. And this way, we're driving more digital thinking and better solutions for our customers and engaging and acquiring higher quality customers consistently. So back to Erin's point around the scientist, right? I actually think that our marketers today need to be part marketer, part traditional artist, but also part scientist. It's not all about the creativity. I sat through a panel in December for Business Insider's Ignition, and they had two CMOs on this panel, and they were both engineers. And that was surprising, right? Because think about in the past, you wouldn't have thought of engineers and architects really being the marketers. And they came from very different organizations. One was at MasterCard, CMO of MasterCard. The other was the CMO of the WWE. But so much of what we're doing with marketing is so planful now and needs to be orchestrated and architected that that science needs to come in. The art is still important, right? We need the content, the fun campaigns, which Erin will show you some of later, the visual assets, the social media that we heard about this morning. We need to engage audiences that way, but we need to know the outcomes and the measures and the analytics that sits behind it. And so those things have to work hand in hand. And hopefully none of us look like this, but that is sort of what has to go on in our heads every day. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Erin.
And I think you bring up a good point about, well, one of the things I thought about when Sam presented the data that most of you in the room are investing in new technology at your organization. So I can largely say that that's one of my fundamental roles at Bio on the event side, is really looking at technology and how, and building a new infrastructure and building a customer journey that's going to help our customers along the way. I failed to mention that we represent about 10 events in our portfolio. So my goal today is to talk to you about a small case study for an event that's about 1,000 people, and then our banner event, which is the International Convention, which is just around the corner, which is about 16,000 people. But I'm gonna flip the switch and let's really get back to that customer and let's look at who they are on the front end and how that really works from the back end of digital marketing. So all of us here in the room today are, show producers, upwards of anywhere from a couple thousand people, a couple hundred people, to hundreds of thousands of people. So we like to talk in numbers generally. But as a marketer, we are literally obsessed with that one email address, that one interaction with the goal to actually get their email address. But what we know about our customers at Bio is that they have very strong, specific business needs. They are 42% of our attendees are high-level business development executives, but they also have a personality. So I would say that at Bio, kind of a cultural shift happened about 3 years ago. We did some research, and our audience base, very much, probably a lot like you in the room, they've worked very hard, but they also like to play very hard. And they have a sense of humor. So what we try to do, and I do believe that there's a very strong thin line to this, is we try to ingrain a personality, the human that's working behind the event, which is yours truly, but then also understanding, who our audience is and communicating to them in a really personal way, because they are absolutely not one-dimensional. So just to reiterate, I'm not going to go into detail, I have a lot to cover, but I'm going to walk you through some tactics that we've done throughout that attendee journey. So how do we create awareness? It's really starting with knowing your audience And what is your unique selling opportunity? What is that one thing that's at your event that they cannot live without? They cannot get it anywhere else. For Bio, it's our one-on-one partnering system, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, and I'll give you some background on that. So activation is so critical. So we send emails, we build websites, we write blogs, a number of digital tactics, but where are we really activating and capitalizing on that? So where we've seen success at Bio is with geofencing. So I'm gonna give you some examples of that and where timing and messaging really comes into play. So marketing automation. So a few years ago, we decided to move forward with Salesforce as an organization. And the marketing team, heard, and we've moved kind of rapidly with a marketing automation system called Marketo. So it's definitely not a journey that's ever done, in my opinion. We've successfully implemented about 6 events, and we're to the point where we are cloning our campaigns inside of this marketing system.
So this is where you start to hear me being really jealous. We do not yet have a marketing automation platform at Reed. We are looking at one, and we will move forward with one, but I came from a world of marketing automation, and I'm so impressed how quickly they've embraced it and moved ahead in ways that they're really able to understand what the customer's doing and then take the customer on the next step of the journey.
Absolutely, and I will say that with marketing automation, we are absolutely not done. It's definitely a work in progress, but we've done some cool things, and we've learned a lot about our website visitors and their habits, and we now have ongoing communication with them that's really exciting. So back to that customer experience. This is where I would consider this a little bit of a blend of old school and new school tactics. Still using print materials. For the direct marketing people out there, that's where I started my career. But really, how do you incentivize them in a creative way and make them wake up and make a connection with your brand? So the days of email open rates and how many people receive the email, those days are over. Looking at data after the event, I know that that's a common theme. We're looking at data every day. Our team probably spends at least 10% of their time looking at how campaigns perform. Measuring, we're constantly pivoting, and I ask way too many questions to my team to make sure that we understand, okay, with that campaign, how much money did it generate? How many net new leads did we get? And then where are we gonna go from here?
And that's one of the coolest things about digital, because we don't have as much marketing automation. With the digital channels, we can really see what's performing, when it's performing, and we can pull different levers as a result. So we don't have to wait till after the fact. We are shifting dollars really pretty real time based on audience engagement with different approaches.
Absolutely. So this is first of my 2 case studies. So Bio recently centralized kind of its whole event management team into one. And we essentially now manage 10 events, and the marketing team kind of serves as an agency, if you will, for events that we didn't oversee before. So I've overseen the Bio International Convention for a number of years, but last year I was tasked with a pretty challenging, smaller event who was 4 months earlier than normal. I consider this the underdog if we're going to continue to use sports analogies. And this sector of Bio, which we are healing, fueling, and feeding the world, is in the I&E and biofuels space. And what we were really seeing there is a declining membership, and this event was made for the membership in a shrinking market. At the same time, we're onboarding, events never stop, so it's very challenging to onboard new technology, and our timelines never stop. So we had a lot of things going on at the same time, and then we really had to go back and strategically think about this audience and who these customers were and what was important to them. And I did a lot of competitive analysis. There's 33 events, and it was also the first time that this event was in San Diego. So what did we do? I did a lot of analysis on the competitive events, and the only thing that we had, or the unique thing that Bio has and had a proven record of, is our one-on-one partnering system. So that's our matchmaking tool, which is a proprietary software that we built a number of years ago, but in the last 3 years, we've revamped, and it's going gangbusters across our event portfolio. So this community was not benefiting truly from partnering because they really didn't know about it. So once I figured that out, I set out to understand where these audiences are, both from a physical and a digital perspective, and we created a number of tools for them. So we created testimonials and infographics. We've seen tremendous success with webinars at Bio, both ones that we host internally, but then also with strategic partners who have a lot of raw data and industry trends that are very important to biotech and pharmaceutical companies. And then we created this What's Next video. So moral of the story is we like to draw inspiration from our daily lives. And I recently moved in DC, and I had to get new internet service from Verizon. And to my surprise, once I gave them a lot of money, I got this amazing video and a how-to and say, Erin, okay, your customer service representative's coming tomorrow. Here's what you need to do. And they actually came within like a 2-hour window, which was like shocking. But I said, aha, like let's bring this to our customers at Bio to say partnering is so important and you need to be successful, but you have to plan and kind of follow this groundwork that we've established for you. And we just saw tremendous success, tremendous engagement, and we really wanted to deliver on that business promise. But back to that individual, so we spend a lot of time talking about the business that gets done at Bio, the amazing education, the outstanding exhibit floor, but we really needed like a unique hook that signified, I think, that this event is different. You are going to expect some change when you arrive to San Diego. I personally love marketing San Diego, and so came up with this idea centered around craft beer, which if any of you have been there, you know that's a huge thing in San Diego. So this is actually a beer koozie, and we gave our attendees and prospects, our engaged attendees and prospects, people that did know us, the opportunity to register by a certain period of time, and they got this fun, kitschy gift, and it literally doubled our registration in 2 weeks, and this is a smaller event, of course. And people inside, I definitely had naysayers saying, that's not our brand, that's not who we are. And it proved to be successful. It's highly engaged in social media. It's the right kind of campaign to really run in social media. And then how did we deliver on that promise on site? These are actually my friends from the Holland Pavilion, and they were so happy, and I got to talk to them about their partnering experience. So it was a great conversation I had on the fly. And we've literally now seen 90% growth for this smaller event since 2014. So just to recap, one of my favorite stats coming out of that event last year is that 1 out of 3 of those companies at that BioWorld Congress had 10 or more partnering meetings. We did paid advertising for the first time ever. We reduced the amount of email that we sent, and we increased our open rate by 10%. So we were reaching more than 1/3 of the audience with our email. So that came through strategic messaging, just revamping the whole communication strategy and not inundating them with messages. So back to the Bio International Convention, where partnering is king. So my background is in trade shows, and the convention at Bio is very different than most of your other events. It's 1/3 education, 1/3 exhibit hall, and then 1/3 of one-on-one partnering. And it is the #1 reason people attend our event. They want to make those business-to-business connections. So we've expanded on how they do that. We have a private area on the floor, and then we have partnering meetings that happen in the exhibit floor. So when we're in San Diego in a couple of weeks, we're going to have 200,000 square feet, essentially, of meetings across the floor. So last year, we were in Moscone Center in San Francisco. So any of you that have been there, which a lot of you I know have, know that there's 3 buildings. So logistically, from an operations perspective, how do you get 7,000 people running from meeting to meeting so that we were able to accomplish 35,000 meetings? So that's really important to deliver on that customer expectation. And then our CFO came to us and said, hey, by the way, find 10% new revenue. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to capitalize on that partnering attendee. I know what they want. I know that the business is essential for them. They're high-level executives, and they partner year-round. But I want to be the #1 partnering system that they're using. So what did we do? We continued to geofence. We strategically picked a European event based on our audience base, and 50% of our companies are international. And we targeted an event that was in San Francisco about 6 months before ours. So what is geofencing? It's essentially a cloud over a physical location, usually at a competitive conference or your own conference. And what we've been doing differently, I think, at Bio in the last 2 years, or what we've learned with geofencing, is to test the messaging. Test what are you trying to achieve? You really want to just render that ad in their phone or in their app. And best case scenario, you want them to click through. This was a registration incentive. So we saw, actually, in our whole paid campaign this year, we've seen 8 million impressions, and it's driven more than 10,000 visitors to our website. But the coolest thing is, because we're invested in strategy, or tracking rather, is that we've converted 170 attendees that we can prove based on geofencing and our paid ad campaigns to the tune of $300,000 just this year, which is outstanding. So the moral of the story, though, is to test the messaging, because we've done some other things with, hey, RSVP for our reception, and some of those really fell on their face and didn't work. So, don't be afraid to try new things. So back to delivering on that promise, those 3 buildings. We created some traditional tools that they could use as far as maps, but we really invested in that app and really coached them on, okay, let's have all your education and your partnering in one place. And anyone that knows about technology and infrastructure feeding from speakers, exhibitors, I know Map Your Show's in the room, attendees, there's a lot of systems that are feeding into our mobile apps, and it is not an easy feat. But our goal that we deliver on every year is to make it as easy as possible to navigate our extremely complex event. So I'm proud to say that last year we saw another banner year as it comes to partnering, and we had 23% increase in the number of partnering meetings. But the number that's really small on there that's really impressive to me is that we found 300 new companies. Those are companies paying the premium price for partnering, so we were able to meet our registration goals. So just to get a little personal now, we've talked about those shiny numbers, the revenue, the registration numbers, but I want to talk about an individual impact that your event can have on their business. So this gentleman's name is Pad, and he's the Chief Scientific Officer and a COO. And this to me says he's a small company. He doesn't have a lot of money to invest, but he went to Bio, he had 40 meetings, he was able to navigate it to the point where he was able to give us a testimonial. It's a beautiful thing, I love it. So what do we know about Pad? We're going to learn about that a little bit later. What can we see about him on the back end? So probably in the last year and a half, our digital team over at Bio has really invested in a tracking strategy. We are looking at things at a macro level, high level, and then on the individual level. So with Marketo, we're able to kind of drop that cookie code, which is called Munchkin code in their terminology, which is like the little Dunkin' Donut hole things. And we literally are tracking our traffic in every point of attribution, first touch point, and everywhere along the journey to make sure we understand what's important to our customer, where they are, and we've been successful. So I know that this is a lot, but this is a look inside our Google Analytics. And this is campaigns that my team has set that's based on different messaging that's out there. This is not based on the medium. This is based on the kind of campaign that we're running. So simultaneously, we're talking about deadlines, discounts and incentives, our partnering messages. And what this is showing you from left to right is actually that number of transactions is the most important column. This totals about $900,000 in revenue. So every day and with every tactic, we're tracking how much, was that email, worth it? Back to one of the points you made yesterday. Did all that time and energy really make a difference and really convert your attendees?
And what I love about this is this enables a marketer to make real-time decisions, right? This is working, this isn't, this is working with this type of audience and not that one, and they can really pull the different levers to drive the outcomes they want in the most effective way.
Absolutely. So going back to Pad, so this is a sneak peek of what he looks like inside of our marketing automation tool. So you can see all these different points of engagement. I still love direct mail. We do just a couple of them a year. But he received our direct mail piece a couple of weeks before our early bird. He registered the day before our early bird, which I love. And then you can see he's engaged with partnering. He's ready to start planning. And it's just like really exciting to see his journey on the digital side as well as, on the outcome of the event. So I really ask my team, are these audiences raising their hand? And what I would task you all with is, make sure you're listening to all of your digital properties. Make sure you understand what your visitors are doing, the people you know, and the people that you don't know, and try to set them on an individual journey with the goal of educating them about the value of your event and why should they attend. So we've been successful with developing a tracking strategy by engaging strategic partners on our webinars, tracking all of our channels, being personal when the time is right, being a little creative, testing content. We literally test every single email that we send, and it's proved to be very successful. Timing is obviously important, but I think the infrastructure of both your team and your digital platforms is critical. And I would, for those of you that are nervous about starting, it's an exciting time, and it's, again, you know, it's a place to start, and we absolutely think that you should.
So in conclusion, and on time for Sam, our suggestion for everyone is to start today. Start small. You don't have to solve it all,
right,
but keep testing and learning. In summary, the world is changing. We need to change too. Customer expectations are demanding it, and they're looking for that experience. And so for all of us, we need to embrace digital and evolve our organizations, and think about how you enable your organization with skill set, mindset, and tools like Erin has brought forward for her team.
And the last note that I would say, because I'm so close to the actual campaigns, is that we've had tremendous support by our C-level at Bio to think differently and invest differently in our marketing tactics. And it's because, you know, they listened and they believed in doing things differently.
Well, thank you very much. That was excellent. I'm sitting here listening to that. First of all, it's super duper that the associations in this one case are in the lead, and thank you for, you know, your honesty in sharing that. And certainly for me, there's a lot of I think aspiration hearing everything you're doing, and boy oh boy. But I'd love to have PAD, not PAD, but if I understood correctly, you looked at that graph showed you everything that person's doing. Digital, direct mail, meetings, everything.
Yes.
Wow. So I think next year we should have a polling question. How many of you are doing, no, that didn't come out right. How many of you can track PAD? How many of you can really, just in one snapshot, show everything you're doing with a client or a prospect? That's fantastic, thank you. Okay, so now we have, I think, roughly, approximately 7.5 minutes for questions. And I think we're going to go to the mobile app. I think we have a question in the back via the app. And who's going to ask that? Thank you.
The one question we've gotten so far has been answered already, but
okay.
we might get a couple.
All right, so now human beings. You see, I was told to do digital. I did digital. I always like to default to human beings. Let's go back there first.
Hi, Carol McGurry with Smith Buckland. Thanks for your presentation. It was really informative. And like the mobile app, I had a bunch of questions. You answered all of them. So my question is, any lessons learned as you embarked on your journey? Were there things that you would have done differently that you might pass on to us in terms of learnings?
Sure, so I'll go first, and then I'm sure Erin has something to add. But I think my learning has been a little bit from outside the industry, is sort of the pace and the absorption. So executive level support and bringing the organization along hand in hand are really critical. And so we have a little bit of a groundswell in the organization of desiring this, but we need to bring the executive team too and increase that understanding. And then testing and learning, so making sure you have the data, not going off your belief system. I was talking to someone this morning who said, well, my customer believes, or my team believes, but let's test that every time. Let's make sure we're testing, forming hypotheses, testing them with data, and learning. And so not being afraid to fail, do things that are controlled, look at the data, and then learn from it. And if it works, scale it, and if it doesn't work, pivot quickly.
Good point. I would say on the marketing automation front, we learned that, you know, with any technology, you know, as many of us know, hopefully in the room, you do not flip a switch. It really has to be a culture shift, especially with where we are with technology. So getting that buy-in across teams. But then I would say it's aligning yourself with vendors and partners that you trust and making sure that they really understand your business rules. The partners that we work with are literally obsessed with our day-to-day marketing and sales efforts. And so they are empowering us to align both Marketo, our marketing automation tool, and Salesforce and how we're going to funnel leads. Salesforce is actually, we're doing things a little wrong. I would also say that. Marketing team, you know, we're all a little pushy. So we launched the marketing automation tool first before Salesforce. So I would not recommend that. It's really aligning yourself with the right partner and make sure they're asking you a lot of questions because we're not the internal experts in that field. So make sure they understand all of your systems and how things are integrated and what your ultimate objectives are and thinking about your customers and things like that. We spend a lot of time, hours every week talking about our business processes with our partners.
Yeah, and one thing I would add is, and this, I heard this saying recently, so it's not mine, but is fall in love with the problem, not the solution. So sometimes we get so excited about what we're solving, both us or our partners or together, but what's the customer need that we're trying to solve against, and what's the data we're gonna gather that'll show us whether or not we are solving it. So really understanding the metrics that matter and understanding what the problem you're solving is really critical.
Okay, another question. Now we have a digital question, so let's do digital.
The question is, direct mail testing requires large cohorts. How small a digital test is too small?
Too small. It just depends on the size of your event, I would say. That's difficult to answer. But I would say roughly, usually we survey 20% of the audience, and then the winner, goes to 80% of them. What was the question around digital marketing or print marketing? Sorry.
I think it was around. I think it was around digital.
It was
so
digital,
how big of a universe do you need to make a test?
I mean, I usually rely on my statistical scientists to answer that, so to really say if it's significant or not, but oftentimes we will carve out 10 to 20% of an audience and say we're going to do an A/B test, we'll run this, and then if it works better, then we'll test the performance one versus the other.
It really depends on the segment too.
We don't always have big enough samples, so.
All right, thank you. Another question? Okay.
Randy Aker with Exhibitor Media Group, and one of the things that the people in here that know me is how do we help the exhibitors to engage, and Scott talked in one of his slides about co-marketing with the exhibitors. Talk about how you're using these digital strategies in helping, you talk about engage your partners, but how are you getting the exhibitors to also leverage that to promote your event?
So I can take it first, and then I'll let Erin add, but this goes back to the do it with me, do it for me, do it myself. I actually think with the exhibitor engagement, we have to guide them. And so some of the exhibitors are going to be right there. They're going to have content. They're going to want to populate it into us. Other ones don't know, right? So we need to help them. We are using offshore resources to help populate some of the content to show them the value. And then we're showing them. We've done some analysis that shows exhibitors who do certain types of things get these types of returns, these types of leads, and we're helping drive ROI and show them, but lead them on the way and help them do it.
So at Bio, we used to operate, us and them, traditional trade show, exhibit floor, and our partnering area on our floor. And so probably 5 years ago, we identified we have a shrinking exhibit floor. They're all downgrading, and they're going into our partnering area and not spending time building a booth. So we expanded our offering there, and we have exhibitor booth partnering. So of those 35,000 meetings, which are about to be 40,000 in a couple of weeks, of those meetings, 1/5 of them are actually in the exhibitor booths. And the beauty of that is at Bio, we have more than 60 state and international pavilions. So there's a lot of little guys in there who get state and government funding, who have a brand, and they really need help. So what they're able to do is get visibility also in our partnering system and schedule meetings literally in their pavilion or their booth. And then we offer a secondary traditional app for kind of old school thinking exhibitors who aren't in our partnering system.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. Very, very good job.